Good afternoon, Salvatore.
Good afternoon, Levan. Good afternoon to all.
And our 500 or so attendees. For those of you who do not know Junior Achievement, they are preparing our future. And as a representative, the CEO of Junior Achievement Europe, today we are welcoming Salvatore Nigro, and he will tell us how, as project management and the mentors of Junior Achievement, can work together. This is something that the two organizations, PMI and Junior Achievement, have been doing for years. So Salvatore will explain to us what have been achieved and how we can do a better job in educating or mentoring rather, because this is not exactly education; it is giving them a chance. So Salvatore, it's for you now to show us what JA Europe has for us.
Thank you very much. And thanks to PMI and the PMIF for the opportunity to speak in this forum, but also for the fantastic partnerships that we launched together already a few years ago in different regions of the world. Europe is not the only regions in which the two organizations are collaborating, but it's one of the newest, definitely at the European level. And we launched our partnership a little less than 2 years ago.
Video.
Was one of my very first strategic alliance, strategic partnership as CEO of Junior Achievement in Europe. But first of all, who is Junior Achievement? What is Junior Achievement? Junior Achievement is the oldest and largest NGO in the world that is preparing the next generation on three things: entrepreneurship, work readiness, and financial literacy. So we have over 100 years of mistakes from which we have learned in preparing the next generation. In Europe, we're currently working in 43 different countries that span really from Russia to Iceland. And we impact over 4 million young people every year. Over 4 million young people go through our different programs from the age of 5 to the age of 29, because it's really a progressive path. Definitely. It's not on your ID card. So we have a special program just for those one who still hide the numbers on the ID card, but I feel young inside, as I do as well. Definitely. So we have these 4 million young people that every year go through our experiential learning, because we realized 100 years ago that the educational system was not really preparing the young people for the world of work or to become entrepreneurs. So a group of business leaders, a group of entrepreneurs decided that what's the best way really to inspire the next generation to become entrepreneur, to inspire them about the professions that will happen into the future, to create the future together with them, was to go into the classrooms. Now, going to the classroom as early as 5 years old and make them imagine and telling about their story, but also we develop a series of modules of training programs associated, as you correctly say, with a mentorship that comes from the business volunteers of hundreds of thousands of companies all over. Only in Europe, we have 100,000 business volunteers that every year go into the classrooms. They are paired with over 150,000 teachers who are very expert, obviously, about the pedagogy. And we train the young people in over 280 programs that are locally adapted across Europe. In this journey, what we realized, great, we're good at entrepreneurship. Good, we are good at work readiness. We're good at financial literacy. But we do need our young people to get acquainted about project management concepts.
Yes.
We need to get them to understand what is the role of a project manager.
They are
So,
rebels, right? They are not going to listen to any project management ideas.
well, that's our duty then, and we are definitely on a shuttle mission here, and so we sit with PMI and say, well, first and foremost, we need to increase our capacity as an organization, and that's why all my staff and is getting last session we had it yesterday afternoon on thanks to you, thanks to PMI, is increasing their capacity in project management, because often in organization, okay, the project managers know about project management, but what about the others? What about all the other departments? They
So
need to know.
this is an entire partnership story. You have skills to give us. We have skills to give you. At the end, it's a symbiotic partnership, right?
It is a symbiotic partnerships, and this is the good things is that it's a partnership really of values, right? So
Yes.
we're not thinking about just we're doing it for our staff today, but then we say, okay, we have a 100 years old program, which is called the company program, no, in Europe, in which these young people create their little mini company. So they arrive at 16 years old, they create a mini company, they appoint a CEO, they appoint a CFO, they appoint a chief marketing officer, they develop a products, they develop a service. There are business volunteers that help them in this journey. They are the teachers who help them in this journey. Then they compete. They compete at the school level, at the local level, at the regional level, at the national level. It's this program that we had, and we have adapted, we have evolved it, but it's a 100 years old. What about if we add a module about project management?
Yes. This is it.
And this is what we did. So in 9 countries, we are already there in Europe. We are adding another 12. We want to get to 23. And yes, we aim at getting to 43 in few years. So all of our countries to include it in their program, a module about project management that, thanks to your expertise, and that you are the leaders on that, we are bringing it across
But
Europe.
Salvatore, it's not just about competence or knowledge or expertise, but it's also how you, as junior achievement, I think your success is your ability to connect to governments, the schools, the companies, the kids themselves, right? Basically, it's a very interesting social fabric that you have to connect to all these parties for it to work, right? It's not like somebody gives you money to do this. You have to actually create partnerships all the time, right?
Yeah, we define ourselves really as a hub, as a platform of
Yes.
innovation. When this innovation comes, and in some countries, our modules have already been embedded into the formal curriculum. If I look at Albania, if we look at Armenia this year, the people who go to school, they already have our modules while studying. And this happens for system change. But obviously, to get to this point, you need to first show that this happens. And this is why we bring the company. This is why we bring not only the 100,000 business volunteers that are there, but also the company decides what kind of challenges they want to throw to the young people. Are we talking, do we want to have a challenge about AI? So develop something related to AI. You want to do it just on STEM? You want to do it, or do you want to create a company that is very much linked to the ESG, which is in line with the business value of the company, and at the same time inspires the young people to not only imagine themselves as future entrepreneurs, but also on making a good social impact, but also tell them that not necessarily everything if they want to succeed, is not enough just to memorize lessons. But what they really need to do is to associate to the knowledge, the curiosity to learn, the importance to solve problems, and be on a specific case or a specific challenge, because the measure of the innovation comes when these young people see that they see a challenge, right? And last year, we had 370,000 young entrepreneurs from the age of 16 to the age of 25 who have competed for the best entrepreneurial idea in what we define Geni, the largest European entrepreneurship festival.
The numbers are quite impressive. How do you manage this? I mean, you can. It's not just a project. You also have to manage all these people, their time, as a program. This thing that you call the magical word capacity. But at the end, if you do it in Spain, you have a different maturity. If you do it in Armenia, they are maybe just starting. Maybe in Turkey, it is implemented differently. As JA Europe, what kind of way of managing your portfolio, let's say, if you see it as a portfolio?
That's very easy. Just try to sleep 3 hours a night, and then you make it happen. Well, apart from that, in reality, as a PMI, which is with your chapters in many of those countries where a lot of innovation, a lot of adaptation, a lot of things comes and happen in response to the local reality, we also take an approach which is fixed, flexible, and freestyle. So what are the things and the programs that are more or less standards that need to come at the European level or at the worldwide level? What of those fixed things instead could be flexible, that we take it from a different angle, we are able to shape it a little bit different, and what instead is freestyle, how the national, the member countries, they can completely do it and run it.
Another value that we share is this volunteers. Are you working only with volunteers, or do you also have paid staff, volunteers, and maybe partner resources?
It's both. Obviously, in each one of the country, we have a solid team and a national board. So there is a national board which is made up of the business leaders of that country, and there is fantastic CEOs, 43 CEOs across Europe with a great team. Those are our, let's say, employees of the different member countries. And then they coordinate the volunteers.
So it's not just about implementing the program, but it's also you involve your stakeholders, your partners at the board level. So they are almost like representatives. They make the decision, but I think they're all united around the same vision, right? That youth has to learn entrepreneurship. Why do you think entrepreneurship is so important for youth? Could you give us an idea why? Because I was born, let's say, in Turkey, a poor country, you know, we had nothing when we were kids. And at the age of 10, I was already a salesman. I was already doing marketing. I actually know almost everything, all the skills that I use for negotiation, talking to people, pitching, because I was doing them in the street since I'm 10. So I'm lucky. I was poor. I had to be an entrepreneur, you know, to survive. But now we protect our kids up until the age of 30. We give them everything that they need, and that means they will never compete to win. They will never compete to survive. They have everything given to them. So how do we create this real sense of competition, real sense of entrepreneurship? Because you cannot just coach them into becoming an entrepreneur. They also have to break the, you know, they have to fall and make mistakes and see that actually it's a very bad experience and they need to learn from this. How do you give them this sense of real competition, real entrepreneurship?
So first and foremost, we're not only talking about becoming entrepreneurs, but having an entrepreneurial mindset and having the entrepreneurial skills. So it doesn't matter if at the end of the day you will become an entrepreneur or you will use the entrepreneurial skills and mindset to work for a company, for instance, right? Because at the end of the day, those non-cognitive skills that you do need in order to succeed, in order also to have a career, it's an entrepreneurial mindset that you have to have as an employee in a company. That's just to clear up that it's so important, independent of where you will end up, right? But it's how you need to shape. And I agree with you. Yes, let's look at the past. I also come from a place which is very close to you, which is the deep south of Italy. And my mother had me when she was 17. My father was 20. Imagine the rural areas of the south of Italy, which is today now the poorest province of Italy during that day.
If I can make a guess, we had the same pants and same broken shoes because we were playing football in the street, right?
Completely, exactly, because we didn't even have asphalt on the street, so we put just a couple of stones to create the doors, and we were playing it out there. So my
Exactly.
mother and my father, you know, when they grew up, being young, with this obsession of finding a job. And during those days, the main employer in Italy and the main employer in Europe were always the state, the public administrations. So also the educational systems were preparing and are still preparing the young people to become public officers, right? But my parents always told me three things. Number one was think big. No matter where you are, it's where you're going to end up. So think big. Number two, don't take a no as an answer. And being an Italian, as you are Turkish, but well, I think we agree on this. And number three is give back, right? So if you have an opportunity in life, which I did add it thanks to scholarships, and I could study in then prestigious school thanks to scholarship and learn different languages. But I always had my career in workforce development to create youth employment or youth entrepreneurship program for other people who do not have the same opportunities, because I strongly believe that talent is universal, no matter where you are. And
I love what
today
you
we are
said. I love what you said. Talent, skills, these are universal things. And sometimes when I look at programs, I feel that they're so specific. But then how do you deal with the cultural diversity? If you implement JA in the north of Italy, does it look like the same in the South Italy? If it is in Mediterranean or Nordics, are you able to do this across cultures in the same way?
it is adapted, and that's why we have great national and local leaders that adapts the program, adapts it to the way of interaction. But the pandemic has shown us something very important, because typically all the mainstream programs go into the big city, the big capitals where the companies are, and so on and so on.
It's
Also
corporate.
often
It's corporate. It's
corporate, typical. But the pandemic has shown us something, that there are plenty of jobs and plenty of opportunities that thanks to technology we can reach out to them. So you can do a mentor session today, someone in London connected to a very small island in Turkey,
yes, this happens a
or
lot
in a
these days.
remote place in Bulgaria. You can do that. And you can offer that training to those young people. And it's not only about the training, and it's not only about the mentors, but what we are seeing, it is about the jobs.
Yep.
So if you have good internet connection, many of the jobs that where you were precluded to until very recently, you will have that opportunity. And if we truly believe that talent is universal, but opportunities are not, now we do have that opportunity to link up to those young people who are talented but are outside mainstream programs, to offer them the necessary skills to get those kind of jobs. And after 20 years on workforce development, I came up to the conclusions that in a single day, you use 5-6 skills in reality. So while we continue to have significant programs that tells you about everything, and you are not going to become too much of an expert on all of that, but you're going to use these 4 or 5 skills every day. And there we need to focus. For that specific skills, they need to be that specific talent that need also to be upskilled on those 4 or 5 for that profession, for that job positions, that will give them the differential to access to the market. So
our audience is already asking, how do you define entrepreneurial mindset? The mindset. Second is the difference between coaching and mentoring. But here I want to mention, starting from 20 years ago, we had this apprentice system, right? Mentoring at that time was we would work under a master. We would learn what they are doing by watching. We couldn't ask questions. We couldn't interact with them. We just had to do as we are told, you know. But now it is a bit more different. How did it evolve over time into what we call today coaching and mentoring?
Okay, so let's take the first questions about the we said about the mindset, right? And how do you create? The first thing is to create a safe environment to create that mindset. Now, you correctly said, very rightly said, Levant, it's also a safe space where people are okay to fail, which normally in many of our culture, the failure of a business idea is confused with the failure of the individuals, which should not. So the first thing is to create that safe space in which it is completely fine to fail. But what is most important is the journey. What did you learn on that journey? How are you able to take the elements that make the business idea failing, revising it, and probably it was about the idea, was about the implementation of the idea, was about the resources that were not the right resources that you had to have. So the first is really the environment that you create. The other one are all the other non-cognitive skills. So definitely when we talk about leadership, definitely when we talk about problem solving, definitely when we talk about communications as well, because we see, if you ask today what companies are looking for and what entrepreneurs should be also good at, is in communicating properly their business idea. And then there is also the whole financial part that we cannot forget. Too often, we forget that at very early stage, we take financial decisions that will define not only our career, not only our becoming entrepreneur, but also our personal life. And also this one is an important pillar that we include in the very young age to understand the difference between savings and investments, to understand about the difference of creating a proper budget on living by the day, right? Yeah. Then about you, and I see that we also have a definition about a question out there on the coaching versus mentorship. Okay, so mentorship, for me, mentorship is someone who share the knowledge, who share the skills that has developed, shares the experience that he had. The coaching instead provides more of a guidance. So a mentor provides also the content in a certain way, and the coaching is someone who provides a guidance in order for you to reach your full potential. Do we need one or do we need the other? In full honesty, we need both. We need mentors and we need coaches to make sure that you have a 360 degrees support to the young entrepreneurs.
About this 360 and safe environment, immediately, because now you said Italy, I cannot get out, it doesn't go out of my head. I spent some time in Firenze, and I remember this very old institutions like Fattoria, Bottega, people were actually working together. Let's not forget teamwork. It's not just about, it's not an athletic coaching. It's not about gymnastics. It's also about working together, right? So we need to also create this, not only a safe environment, but a collaborative one, where they can interact, they can see. I think the Nordics are very good at this right now. They let them play, but play with rules. Experiment, let's call it a social experiment. Your focus is most on the economic experiment of actually running a company. Could you explain to us two things? These are my operational questions. How do you work with a school? If I'm a teacher and I come to JA and say, I want to help my kids, how can I engage as a teacher with my classroom? Do you have an answer to that? And second, how do you create this bottega environment where some seniors, the mentors, let's say, they are already Michelangelo, you know, they all know everything, they have finished everything, and then the young people come and, you know, I mean, even Botticelli, you know, he didn't invent most of his work himself. He was actually an apprentice. He was just repeating what he learned from the bottega, and they even say half of his work were actually done by the people around him, not just by himself, you know. So it was actually created as a team. So do you focus on team skills or one person? This is, for me, a very important thing to differentiate when we say coaching and mentoring. I think a lot of people think of it more or less like almost like a athletic or psychological help. No, I think this is working together and collaboration, right? Two questions. How do you onboard a teacher with a classroom or a school? And how you create this team boutique enterprise environment?
It is indeed. And the two questions are actually very linked. So how do we work with the teachers? When there is a school say, well, I love to have my youth participating in the JA programs. So we link up that school, and we have over 70,000 educational institutions in this moment in Europe who are doing it. We, first of all, certify is also through a series of training of trainers of the teachers. Then we pair the schools also with a series of business volunteers from the companies who are our partners. So in a classroom, then the teacher creates, well, actually are the youth themselves, that creates a mini company. And here it comes your second question about the teams. Yes, they do create a team of 5 people, normally 5 to 7. It depends also on the size of the class, on the size of the business idea that they are going to put it forward. And it's themselves already who are assigning the responsibility. So they're going to work together on creating that product, that service, and that mini companies, but also on assigning responsibility of who is going to be the CEO, who is going to be the chief marketing officer, who is going to be the chief technology officer, who is going to be the project manager.
So it's not one student, one company. Actually, the whole classroom is the company.
Exactly. And that's why it's a company. It's not only a self-employed person. It's a company. It's a mini company. So they create, and then they compete, obviously, also against another group of those individuals who have another mini company. They do it in the class. They do it in the school for the best at the school level. They do it at the regional level. They do at the national level, and they come to our European largest final. So this is really step by step how our company program works, and it is a program. And in all this path, they have the teacher and the business volunteers that help them, that work with them, that support them, that acts as a both mentor and cases as coach to advance on this idea, but also to tell them, well, look, this is how it works in the world of work. Because many of those young people, we have to remember, they've never been exposed to what really means the world of work. Many of them don't even have a proper CV. So for years and years, you study at school about everything, but you're still missing the key to access to the job market, which is having a proper CV, how to go for an interview. So all of those are fundamental also for them. And I do agree with you that
I have just spotted another gap. By the way, my relationship with JA Bulgaria comes from Innovation Camp, where I propose them to create a senior achievement program for digital people to get support from the younger generation. So this is how we start a very special relationship. But what I see that there's a gap of the parental guidance, because in a way, this is not to be confused. Okay, I have my kids, I bring them to you, you will teach them how to run a company, you will mentor them, but do you think that parents can also be educated so that they can be, because a lot of parents, they ask their kids, what are you going to become? What kind of job are you going to have? Well, where would you like to work? They try to force their kids to think about the future. But actually, in your case, you are doing this a little bit on their behalf, but not by trying to make them engineers or doctors, but actually become an entrepreneur. So, you know, in a way, you are giving a very special kind of parental guidance. Do you also have programs for parents so that they can actually become a better volunteer for mentoring their kids?
We have it in some cases, but it's not really streamlined. But it is something in which we want to definitely invest more in the future. Because when we were talking about creating a safe environment, we do not have to forget that all of those young people still live with their parents, right? So they spend time at school, but they spend time at home. They spend time with their family. And obviously, as it was for me, you know, the great inspiration was always my parents. You also want to find that role model in society and see it of your parents. Now, it is
They are
true
your
that
team. Your parents are your team. So
exactly. So it is definitely something that we want to invest more. It was not something that we had so much, but we are realizing we're coming to the same conclusion that you are. If you want to create the support structures with the different stakeholders, so the schools and the public education system, the companies that are out there, the youth, but you do need also to engage more, we need to engage more meaningfully with the families and the parents.
so including them is not a bad idea. It's something that, but it's a very special connection, because they may want to separate, you know, what happens in the family, what happens in school, what happens at work. But more and more I see that our society is so, maybe this is the effect of social media, you enter this private space. The private space is open now. So do you also, as a let's say, for example, do you have very special, let's say, social media campaigns? Do you also involve them through the media, because you cannot use TV? Working in the classroom is a physical space. It's very limited, and you can only use a few hours probably. How do you also do this communication part, where for general audience, you know, the old saying is that let the results show your abilities, but actually it's not enough just to deliver, but you also need to communicate. Do you also have like some partnerships in the communication of your mission? And because a lot of corporations may look at it as a corporate social responsibility, do you also try to change the mindset of your stakeholders, such as corporations?
Yeah, well, historically, JA has always worked through the schools, right, and through the educational systems. But then, in the recent years, and it has been significantly accelerated in the pandemic, the approach to work directly with the final users, in this case, with the beneficiary, with the young people. And how can we interact with the young people if we are not able to speak their language, be where they are, and speak their language and be where they are? It talks about digital to me, and it talks about social media, because we do not have to forget that young people are learning in a very different way. Now, I'm a proud father of a 7 years old and of a 4 years old, and you can tell that they are not learning from left to right anymore. They're really learning from center to wide, because they're already exposed to multiple solicitations when they watch videos, when they have their iPad, when they're watching their televisions, and so on and so forth. So yes, JA is moving more and more into a sort of business to consumer approach, which is a straight working with the youth. And The European Entrepreneurship Festival that we organized last year in Lithuania, and I open a little parenthesis out there, 5 months ago. So historically, I was telling you, we had all of those young people participating into the classroom, competing in their mini company and getting to the European final. So then you organize an event in a great hotel room, conference room, in which you then awards the best mini companies. Then the pandemic has shaped, did not give the opportunities to all of us to travel anymore as we wish it to. So we had to reinvent ourselves and say, how can we use this opportunity rather than having the 200 finalists into a conference room to create really the largest European entrepreneurship festival? And we went to the real basic of who we are and what happened during the pandemic. We use it to. So,
I have questions about the 5 skills that we use every day. I think they heard it and they are asking again what they were. But I want to make the bridge between what you were saying and the skills. Actually, our conference has a special track on power skills. PMI traditionally had the talent triangle, you know, the leadership, strategy and business management, and technical project management skills. Now we are expanding this to any kind of talent you can imagine, because as a project manager, the projects are becoming a project economy. You need to deal with different partners. It's even, maybe we should call it project society, because in a social project, we don't need to talk about just the economy, economic interest, but there's also social interest. And I believe somebody said a social enterprise, there is a potential for a social enterprise where the market fails. You see, education market is such that the corporation and the school are quite separated. You fill in that gap. This kind of gap is where you have a function to, but as project managers, when we look at how this can be implemented and how this can be used in our personal, professional development, what skills can we learn by participating in a mentorship program? So do you actually use them in the same way that PMI talks about life skills? You know, power skills, life skills. We are not talking about soft skills here or technical skills, but those, if I can say, that make you a better person, that make you a better team player. So what are the objectives in skill development that our PMI mentors can expect, PMI members, let's say, when you invite us to come and mentor for you? What are the skills as I will be developing if I start mentorship?
Well, the first one to me is really the ability to inspire and convince others. Because this one, it comes when you have in front of you a different audience than you are normally exposed to.
Yeah.
You are a good salesman, I heard, I understand. But getting in front of a class of 17 years old, which it's already, you know, over 20 years difference among probably 2 or 3 generations than you are, the ability that you have to inspire and convince others will significantly increase if you're successful and if you work on that. The other skills that I really see that and more are required is, number one, it's active listening, really active listening.
Yeah.
And it's more and more difficult. Why it's more and more difficult? Because we are bombarded by informations. We want to get it straight to the point, but at the same time, not everybody is able to do so. So we need to really learn and understand what the others is communicating to us. And associated to that is how do we improve our own ability to share a clear messages even in a complicated environment or in a complicated and long or rhetoric speech that we want to make. So from one side, you have the active listening. On the other side, you have your ability to really share clear messages. Some of the skills that really have emerged more and more and very strongly during the pandemic is definitely flexibility and resilience. Now, the two look synonyms, but they are not. And I want to go back to the very mean of resilience. So resilience comes from the physics. And physics tells you that a material is resilient when a material is able, no matter how much you change it, you stretch it, you move it, is able to return to the same form.
We shouldn't be hard, we should be elastic.
Exactly. So the possibility of returning to the same state gives the resilience. And I think that during the pandemic, many of the young people have been resilient. Many of the workers around the world have been resilient. But was this enough? It's not enough now, because we cannot go back to normal. And we cannot expect that the next generation is going to back to normal, that the resilience brings you back to the original status. We need to go back to better.
I think this is what we call evolution. Evolution is also a skill where we cannot be, well, in order to be, I think resilience should not be misunderstood as always going back to the previous state. It should be understood as go to a better state, the adaptive state. And adaptation is actually this is not about COVID. This is about, I think it's a universal thing. We discuss change, we discuss structure as old as times, but it should not be understood as a separate issue, as a separate topic. You have to have the skeleton and the muscles. The agility, the flexibility is you have to use the structure and the process, you know? It's not just, let's say, always staying static or being happy all the time. I mean, I'm not very good in Buddhism. I apologize half of the world for this. Basically, I always see problems, and I really want to contribute, be part of it, try to solve it. I cannot just sit back and relax, because there is just too many problems, and we want to be active and do things that we cannot just sit back and ignore the problems, right? I think being active is not just listening, but also participating. Maybe this is the danger that we have with the new generation, as you explained very well. The communication, sometimes parents, instead of talking to their kids, they will have to send them a tweet or an Instagram message, because talking, they will not hear it anymore. But if they actually communicate with their kids on social media, maybe that's a skill that we need to negotiate, and not say, hey, you have to listen to me, to my voice, and do as I say. Well, it could be more like, hey, mother, father, I'm also existing as a digital person, and you can interact with me on the digital medium, right? So these are interesting times where we all have to evolve. Could you give your take on how JA skills and these things that we call life skills can actually help us be adaptive and evolve?
It goes in when we talk about the same essence of the entrepreneurial mindset, right? So yeah, the first thing is to identify that you have a problem, to identify that there is a challenge out there, that there is a need out there in which your company, your idea, your business can provide a meaningful solution. So if we are able to have a generation of young people who are going and look for the solutions and not only stopping to the problem, because I agree with you that we need to segment it into three categories. Those one who are hiding the problem, those one who recognize that there is a problem, but they stick and stop just on the analysis of the problem, and those one who recognize that there is a problem, but at least they try. Then they fail, or maybe they succeed, but at least they try to sort it out. And if this creates a business opportunities, and that business opportunity is going to be good and have a great social impact also, well, I think it's going to be a win-win, not only for that entrepreneur, not only for that team of entrepreneurs, but for the whole society. And this is why we must intervene at a very early stage, because getting it when we are already formed, getting it when we are already on our path, then it's always so difficult. And you know how difficult it is to make those kind of changes.
Let's switch to more personal engagement. How did you end up where you are? Because now when I look at you, I see that you are actually. Did you start as a JA student, as a young company? Because one of the things that inspires me the most here is here in Bulgaria, is to see that the relationship doesn't finish. Those graduates that became entrepreneurs, they always come back to JA and they always work. How does this entire impact on your life has been working for JA?
No, unfortunately, I'm not a JA alumni because in my little village in the rural area school, there were no JA programs. But
You
that's why
invented JA in your village.
and exactly this is the point. So I'm so happy that actually the school of the lycée of my little village is now gonna be in our program this year. So I'm very happy that we have at least accomplished that. It took few years, but definitely no. After I started studying, I wanted to become a diplomat, and I joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and then I realized it would have taken too long for me to change the world. So then I decided to work always for organizations who were having a significant impact in the life of young people. First at the Global Forum, who were bringing the best knowledge in city to city capacity building for youth and children programs. Then at Education for Employment, who in the Middle East and North Africa is providing employment opportunities for young people that did not have it. And then after so many years going around the world, I decided to go back to Europe and run the largest European entrepreneurship organization, which is JA.
Because this kind of career is also a form of foreign relations and ambassador. So in a way, you are also an ambassador, or you actually probably create ambassadors, right? You help other people in local countries to represent you, the spirit of, let's say, junior entrepreneurship. So it's kind of, you are running your own ministry of the future. That brings me to our conclusion. We have only 10 minutes left. I don't know if you have other questions. If not, did you have any other topic that you would like to share with our project managers, program managers, the PMI population?
Well, I'm very happy that we are strengthening even more at the strategic level this partnership event by having Olivier Lazare, the Vice President of Strategic Alliance, joining the European Board of JA Europe, who was just appointed last week. So we have a very great, at this point, partnership, also at the strategic level. But also to engage more and more in your respective countries with our teams. There is always opportunity not only for volunteer, but also to enter at a very strategic level in the discussion. JA is an organization that is over 100 years old, but is an organization on the move. It's an organization that is transforming, and is one of the organizations that can do easily for a very simple reason. Because when you have 4 million young people out there, you have 4 million feedbacks. And those are the 4 million feedbacks of the people who are going to live in the world of work. They're going to live in the economy of tomorrow. So we better have that active listening of what they want, what they wish, and it is going to be our role to inspire them, to prepare them, and to make them succeed.
So for the PMI line of work, do you know some good examples where, let's say, the JA program was applied by PMI people in a chapter, or vice versa?
I would make an unfair statement at this point, because we just launched the last year and we get the people trained. So I would make an unfair statement by saying yes, this and not the other ones. What I see that has been a significant, a very significant engagement from all of our team, and also excitement from all of our teams in the different countries. We started with 9 countries in embedding the concept that the PMI is providing us, and also the modules that we have developed to be included and associated to our company program, which is a significant step forward. So
Perfect.
allow me not to mention someone specifically at
But
this point.
but like you
I'll do it in a few months.
but actually this is not just in Europe. This is done globally because I heard some very good cases in South America that's going pretty well, I think. The collaboration between the two organizations. Um, Basically, I invite you. I invite already J Bulgaria and other partners, just like we invited the PMI chapters to this conference. We will do this continuously. We will do this every year. But in the meantime, we don't need to wait 1 year. There are many things we can do together. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I'm pretty sure that the structures, the European structure of both organizations, they are talking to each other. We have Olivier Lazare, who is going to present this evening. He will talk about the educational foundation of PMI. So if you don't have any other questions from the crowd, I think we will have 5 minutes early. This is also a very important skill to finish before the time. So I'm trying to learn this today. For the 3 days, I will do my best to keep it short, sweet, and I hope that you also found what you expected in our organization.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to you, and thank you so much to all PMI.
Thank you. I will surely be writing to you, asking you more collaboration, more resources, books, reports, so that we can continue sharing with our audience the big, senior, junior, all these achievements. Thank you so much, Salvatore.
Bye.
Take care. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.